We've got an artist with a diverse musical background, and she's also a voice actress here on the Music Universe podcast. Oh, Matt, how's it going today?
Oh, it goes excellent. Really getting used to this. Really getting used to it. It's kind of weird, but I may not want to go back to the office after this.
Oh, I hear you, bro. I mean, I'm a homebody for the most part, and I'm kind of digging it a little more than I was afraid I would be. Because I'm so focused on the website and podcast, I'm kind of, putting off some other home stuff, cleaning and laundry and anything else you can think of. But this is a lot of fun. I'm excited about all the guests we've had and the future guests who are coming, and the time that we get to spend just chatting with them and chatting about them, and putting all these podcasts together, and of course just publishing news whenever it becomes available.
Absolutely. And you just got a new house, didn't you, a little while ago? How's that unpacking coming?
I've been mostly unpacked. It's just kind of organizing. The garage is my next step, which is, I'd say 90%.
And it'll be your next step for 20 years if that's the way garages go.
Well, no, it's been organized for the most part. Over the weekend, I kind of went in there, did some more stuff, bought some more storage bins, which I went and picked up from, the pickup sections of the parking lot of the store, and put them in my garage and came back inside and started working again. So they're still sitting out there, stacked, open, ready to be put away with stuff in them, but there's nothing in them. And I just haven't done it yet. Been too busy.
Absolutely. No, I've been busy too. Some days I wake up at 6:45 and come down here, and I turn around, it's 3:00.
Oh.
8 hours goes by.
Exactly.
It's just, the time off, the quarantine time in the house, if you're focused on something, and I think that's the goal. I mean, it's okay to take time to be sad and anxious, and I don't want to discount that, but you have to be productive because that's how the day's going to go by. Whatever you count as productive. Binge watching Netflix, and just using that to pass the time, that's fine. Being a creator like us, that's great as well.
I've been trying to keep the TV off, or at least I have it on in the background typically, but I've been trying to keep it off mostly so I can just focus on these podcasts. I mean, the other night I spent 4 hours before I knew it was 12:15, and it's like, okay, I finally wrapped up what I need to get done. And then the night after that, I spent another couple hours putting together marketing stuff for them. So it's just kind of flying by when you're not paying attention to the time and actually focused on your work. So it's all good.
Absolutely. And I mentioned your house. We're about to talk to somebody who I think has 2 houses, maybe 3 overseas. I don't know.
Yeah.
She is one of the most eclectic and awesome characters I've ever gotten to talk to. A singer, musician, songwriter. She does great song covers. She's a voiceover actress. She's a budding pilot. Carrington MacDuffie. If you don't know the name, you want to know the name because you will fall in love instantly. This was a cool interview. There's no way to describe it. It was just cool.
Yes, and she can chat, and she kept us entertained. She kept us on our feet, I'll tell you, because sometimes you just never know. And, she's narrated over 200 audiobooks, and you'll probably recognize some of the names, and I'll let her explain that to you. Also, if you're into the World of Warcraft game, she actually plays a shamanic Scottish dwarf. She voices one. So, without further ado, it's Carrington MacDuffie. And we welcome Carrington MacDuffie to the Music Universe podcast. How are you doing today, Carrington?
I'm doing just great. How are you?
Not too bad. We're keeping that social distancing going, but we just wanted to see how, first we want to thank you for your time. I know you're super busy with everything going on, having to stay home and everything, but we just wanted to chat with you and see how you were making the most of your social distancing.
Oh yeah, I'm actually having a really great time on my sofa with my electric ukulele with a couple of new song ideas. That's I'm mostly doing that right at the moment. There are many projects that are floated all the time. I'm in contact with a couple of different audio engineers who are working on tweaking some mixes for singles that are coming up in the spring and summer. So I'm working on those long distance. But mainly, it's a good time for writing, especially because it's raining right now. It makes it even more isolating.
What city are you in?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
Woo!
Yeah. Now, where are you? Wait a minute. Where are you guys?
I'm New York / Pennsylvania. Live in New York, but we came back to my parents' home to wait this out. And Buddy's in California, in Bakersfield.
All right. All right. Okay. I like knowing where you are. We've got plenty of distance here.
Oh, yeah.
No problem with the distance thing. No, I got that covered.
But I see you split your time between Austin and Seattle. Were you there when it kind of, forgive the indelicacy, but when it all hit the fan, so to speak? Were you in Washington?
No, I was actually in Glasgow, which is, I'm starting to split my time in three ways now because I have a fantastic 5-piece Scottish band there. And I was just on my way home, and I just kind of barely made it back from Glasgow, Scotland, back to Austin as this was all hitting the fan. Yeah.
Well, we're glad you made it back safely. And just to kind of divert a little bit, you have the coolest first name. How did you get that?
I was named, that's a family name. I have all my names are last names because I have two middle names also that are last names. So they're all, it's a waspy thing. So that I was named after a branch of my maternal grandfather's family. So my grandfather, Maximilian Carrington Langdon Van Norden, I got one of his names as my first name, even though it's a last name. What can I say? So I was named after my grandfather.
That's pretty cool.
I love stories.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Did you ever, growing up, was there ever a rebellious phase? You didn't want to be Carrington. You wanted to be something else. I mean, how'd you feel about it?
Oh, I know. I never felt that. I felt very at home with my name. No, that was always my name. That was always good. I was rebellious about other things and probably still am, but not my name. It's part of the job, I guess. Be a little bit rebellious.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I'm really enjoying your music, and one thing that I found, especially in these times, actually, our local station is airing Christmas music this week because of all of this quarantining. But one of the first things to pop up on YouTube are your holiday Christmas music covers, and I just wanted to tell you, first of all, beautiful voice, beautiful vocals. What inspired you to do those holiday albums, those holiday cuts that you have?
Well, I have to do a Christmas song, right? I got to chime in with that. It's just kind of part of the rhythm of things. And I've selected songs that I felt I had a different take on that I wanted to explore further. So in 2019, just a few months ago, I did a really rocking version, slightly demented rocking version of Blue Christmas, which has always been done as kind of a sad song, but I did it as from the point of view of maybe more sort of like annoyance, like she's annoyed that her man, whoever it is that she wants isn't there and should be there, and it's not the way it ought to be. And also, in that case, I think a lot of people have a tough time at Christmas. I mean, we put a lot of really good window dressing on it, and for sure the lights of Christmas, that's my favorite part. But there are a lot of people who don't have family and a lot of people who have a rough time over Christmas. And I thought, well, let's, allow that to be expressed as well. So I allowed some ire into the Christmas spirit with that version of Blue Christmas. And I guess I'd say the same about the other covers that I've done. It's not that I've done them to make them sound angry, but to bring something different to them. And I think it's a sign of a classic song when it can be interpreted in many different ways. And so I've tried to pick classics and do a different spin. Like I have a sort of a samba version of of Let It Snow, very sexy kind of samba, soft version from the girl's point of view, that sort of thing. So that's how I've chosen them. It's an intuitive choice. I have to come up with one for this year pretty soon. Actually, I have to start thinking about that.
Baby, It's Cold Outside. Just
throwing
that out there.
I know that's such a great song. I feel like it's been done so well that I hesitate to approach it again in the same way, and I don't have an inspiration of how to do it differently. But believe me, that was at the top of my list. I do have another one in mind, which I'll keep under the hat until I really decide and start producing it.
Well, if you are taking requests, one of my favorites is Christmas, Please Come, Baby, Please Come Home, and Please Come Home for Christmas. Just saying.
Oh, okay. Those might need some doing. Okay, baby. Those might need redoing.
There you go.
Well, writing this down.
Now,
so glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. In the middle of not quite the middle of the year, but the end of March, right?
Yeah.
Christmas in March.
I think we are. Oh no, we have one more March day. Tomorrow is a March day also.
Yeah, we're almost April. Not to put your music aside or anything, but you mentioned you're splitting your time between 3 cities. You're also splitting your time between music and doing voiceovers and as some voice acting as well. If you can tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's just crazy, is what I can tell you about that. That's crazy, along with the 3 cities and the 4 names. I do a lot of audiobook narration, and the reason for that is, well, I just got into that end of the business. I've done a lot of other kinds of voiceover, but I like audiobook narration because you can really sink your teeth into it, and you can wind up doing a lot of, you never know what you're going to get cast for. You can wind up doing a lot of character work and dialect work, and get in depth on subjects that you wouldn't necessarily have chosen. Sometimes I get cast for things that I actually do know quite a bit about, and that's also gratifying. Biographies are especially often fascinating. So that's long form narration. That you've got to have stamina to do that work. I've also done, voices for video games and some commercial work, not a lot, but and also documentaries, some documentary narration, museums, interactive museum things. Kind of thing. I can't think of the right word right now. Not feeling very articulate.
Gotcha. Some of the. Can you name some of the titles, maybe, guys? People can check out and hear your beautiful voice.
Oh yeah. Well, let's see. Let me see what I can remember that I've done recently. Well, if you are at all interested in forensic science, I just narrated an absolutely fascinating book called "Teasing Secrets from the Dead," written by one of America's foremost scientists, actually, in her field as a forensic pathologist. She, and I can't remember the name of the author, I'm sorry, but what a great book, absolutely fascinating about the work she does. She was on the ground at 9/11 and at the Branch Davidians in Waco, sorting out all the remains so it's kind of grisly, but very scientifically told, fascinating, wonderful kind of an account by this really brilliant woman whose name I don't remember, but Teasing Secrets from the Dead. I've narrated some Harlan Coben. It's been a while since I've done Harlan Coben, but that's a big name that people will recognize. Biographies are among my favorite type of book to narrate, and I've done biographies of Pussy Riot.
Oh, wow.
What was the name of that? Words Will, I'm trying to remember the name of that. I'll think of it in a minute. But Pussy Riot, Joni Mitchell. I've done a Jack Kerouac biography by one of his girlfriends from earlier in his life, I think, someone that he knew when he was younger. That one's fascinating. The Pussy Riot title is called Words Will Break Cement, The Passion of Pussy Riot. Those girls are amazing. I'm not sure exactly what they're up to right now. So
causing a riot somewhere.
One that I hope they're stirring up trouble somewhere in Russia, together with Edward Snowden. And there was another one I wanted to mention. If it comes back to my what you'll see in the airport. There's an author whose work I narrate. Amy, what is her last name? I'm not great with names, but and you'll also find one called The Paris Wife, which is about Hemingway, and that's in every airport bookstore. That's all over the place. And that's a story of Hemingway from the point of view of his first wife, and I guess that's been a bestseller for many a long year. So those are some examples, if that gives an idea. I've done quantum mechanics, if you're interested in that, which I happen to love. I narrate a lot of the quantum physics books by one of Harvard's, department heads, Lisa Randall, I think her name is. I do her books. If you're interested in the Hadron Collider or any of that stuff.
Oh, you're very versatile.
Yeah. I'll read what you put in front of me as long as I don't object to it.
I totally get it. Do the two things support each other? Because I'm sitting here thinking, your voice is so crisp, it's so clear, your music is so unique and varied. Do you find little moments from the reading and the way you read dramatically seeping into the music, or vice versa, that some kind of musical vocal technique goes into the reading? I mean, is there a yin and yang there at all?
For sure, they inform each other. Absolutely. I would say that my narration, I tend to have a melodic delivery. I mean, unless it's really very straight and has to be super serious. And when it comes to storytelling, there's a lot of melody in narration, to my mind. Although other narrators that I know have a background in theater, which I have none of whatsoever. They all have training as actors, which I don't have. I approach it as a vocalist and, a writer. So, absolutely, melody comes in when I'm narrating, and I've always done a lot of spoken word in performance, and also brought it into my my songwriting. And I find that when I'm on stage, I think because of all of the experience I've had behind the microphone, narrating complex passages of God only knows what, I can sort of break into spoken word if I want to, mid-song, or if I'm on a line. I'll tell you the truth, actually. If I'm singing and it's a rough day and I'm not going to hit that high note, I'll break into spoken word instead, because why not?
Sure.
And why not? It's better than hitting the note wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
And or using auto-tune that so many people do. I'd rather have it be authentic than be fake.
For live. I mean, everyone has to do a little tuning of their vocals in the studio, but live, no, I wouldn't. No, I would feel enslaved to a machine in a way that I like machines, but not in that situation. Yeah.
Right. Now, looking over some of your other work that you're working on, you mentioned you're recording. Now, is that still being planned for April with things going on? And please tell us about the rocking cover of Casey Musgrave's Follow Your Arrow that you're working on.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait for that. I can't wait to get on stage with that one. Yes, the record is still coming out April 24th. We are not waiting. We are moving ahead in the midst of the madness. The world is always a mad place, so why not now?
Yeah, and we need something to listen to.
Yeah, we got to keep moving. We need fresh. We need to stay fresh, right? So that comes out the 24th. I have a single dropping on this Friday, called "The Way You Were Mine," which is the fourth track on the record. So that's all going forward. We're excited about it. I'm just starting to get airplay in LA and all over, and in the UK and BBC and college radio and Americana radio. A lot of radio activity. We're excited about that, and Spotify is moving. It's great. So we're releasing. You bet we are. And then Follow Your Arrow. Yeah, what a great song that is. I started playing around with that last summer when I was on tour in the UK, and I had 3 different guitarists on that tour. This isn't what you asked, but I'll just explain that. It was an 8-week tour. Yeah, it was
Love
an
the
8
stories.
tour. Yeah, stories are good, right? And my first guy that I had who was great wound up with carpal tunnel in his wrist, and he had to drop out of the tour. And then he's an English guy, and then I had an American who was living in London, who I found through my engineer in Austin at the last minute, where I really needed somebody, and I was talking to my guy in Austin, and he was finishing a mix-up for me and asked me if there was anything else I needed, and I said, yes, I need a guitarist in London right now. And so he said, call this guy. So I called that guy, Carrington. He came on the tour, and he was with me for a couple weeks. And then I got a Scottish guy, and that was the guy. And I started working with him, John Gray, on Follow Your Arrow, because that song had been in my mind, and I really wanted to rock it. It's just a great, and there's a good example of a classic song that can take a different treatment. And I felt that it has a kind of the quality of an anthem, and an anthem can always be rocked. So I thought, let's do that, and started playing it that way. And then John Gray got with me, and he's a great classical player and also electric guitarist from Glasgow. And we were doing an electric duo, and we started doing it that way, and then put it into a 4-piece band, and we recorded it there. And we recorded basic tracks in Glasgow in August. And then I tracked the vocal in Seattle when I was back there in September. And then I did some overdubbing in Austin the last couple of months, and it's really filling out beautifully. Then I was back in Glasgow rehearsing it with those guys again. So it's just been building for several months, and I'm really stoked about it. We haven't assigned a release date to it yet, but I'm thinking this summer is what I'd like to do. We have to read what's going on globally and respond to that. You know, I'm supposed to be at a festival in Scotland at the end of July, so I'd like to release it before that, and I'd like for that festival to happen.
Oh yeah, so many have been canceled. It's just upsetting.
I know. People need music, and Facebook Live only goes so far, you know?
Oh yeah.
I agree. How has your work been impacted? Your shows, your gigs, even with the audiobooks, how has that been impacted? Your career been impacted by this sort of worldwide stoppage of everything all at once?
You know, isn't it amazing? What's going on is really kind of, it's so horrific. And there's kind of also this cool thing to it where we're all going, what? At the same time. I was scheduled to perform at South by Southwest, the Red Gorilla Festival, which runs together with South by Southwest. So, of course, those showcases were canceled. And, I had a great 5-piece band set right here in Austin. We rehearsed our asses off, and, so that didn't happen. And then, you know, aside from that, I mean, I'm mostly in production right now. I was planning on summer performances in the UK, and all of that is so up in the air. I can't really answer that question. I don't know what will be canceled and what will go forward. And even the things that go forward will be affected by other things having been canceled, and we don't even know really how they'll be affected.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. But when it comes to the narration work, well, that's something that can be done. You can stay at home and do that if you have a home studio. And so I'm not working on a project right now, although I was just contacted by a publisher about a new title that I don't know if they'll cast me for it or not. But if they do, I'll be getting right to work on that. And I can't say what it is because it hasn't come out yet. But that it's possible still to go forward with that. I think the business, I'm assuming people are still, we're all hungry for content, maybe even more than usual. People aren't commuting, which is when most people listen to audiobooks. So that's different, but people are really needing things to see. We all need entertainment. We're so entertainment oriented. We it's like cutting a baby off from the bottle. We're like, where's my Netflix?
Right.
Mama, Netflix. Exactly. Mama.
This is what COVID has reduced us to, baby noises.
I know, right?
And you're really good
Yeah.
at them, by the way.
I'm sorry.
You're really good at them, by the
You
way.
were really good at that. That was
Yes, I can play a baby really well, especially a Scottish baby. I do especially well. Yeah, sounds the same.
so. Buddy, I know I said it was your turn, but that actually, speaking of hobbies and different things, unless I read your bio wrong, you fly aircraft? Is this correct?
Well, I can sit in a pilot seat and in a small plane. We're talking about trainer planes, with an instructor on my right, and I can keep a plane in the sky. I have
That's
done
good.
a takeoff. I have not done a landing. I'm just barely a beginner. I'm not, but it's something I felt would be good to know how to. I don't know. I just thought, what if I need to do that sometime? Wouldn't that be? What if I was in what if I was in a situation where somebody needed to fly that plane to get us out? In my
Like 2012.
yeah, like some kind of emergency, or I don't know. So I started doing some training. It's expensive, and I don't have a lot of time for it because I really am kept pretty busy by my missions in life. But it is a thrill to handle a plane. I've done it a few times. Yes, I'm nowhere near. I mean, a pilot's license, you have to do ground school. I don't think I'd even pass. But I have flown a little Skyhawk a few different times, a Cessna Skyhawk.
Well, tell us about that performance driving you actually do as well, and target shooting, ballroom dancing. You do all kinds of stuff.
Well, if I had time, I'd be doing them on a regular basis, but this is just a list of things that I love to do and have done and do when I can. Performance driving, right? I've done a lot of, well, not a lot, but I've done a fair amount of training on the racetrack for driving, with real skill at high speeds is what that's about. In again, more trainer race cars. I've ridden also with really good drivers in a few different kinds of cars on smaller tracks to just see how they handle, how a really experienced driver handles a track. And but I've done a lot of training also myself. And that's expensive. It seems I like expensive things to do. Apparently, that's expensive too. Because you go through tires really fast. That's one of the most expensive things. You just burn right through tires.
Where does this adventurous spirit of yours come from that you want to do all of these different things? Not a lot of people are like that. Not a lot of people are as brave as you to take on all of that.
I couldn't do it.
God, I don't know. I have no idea. I guess that is the great mystery, isn't it? Where does our spirit, where does our nature come from? I don't know. This is just the way that I am. I'm very inquisitive. I'm really curious. I don't mind high speeds if it's being handled well. I like high speeds. It's scary handling an airplane. I wasn't like, oh, I love this. No, I didn't. I was like, this is terrifying. In a plane, because it's one thing to be on a racetrack where, all 4 feet, as it were, are on the ground and you just are handling, you're right. You've got a lot you're handling, but you can go right, you can go left, you can go up the hill, you can go down the hill. There's a lot of things involved, but it's nothing like being in a plane where you can go right, left, you can go tip right, left, you can tip forward, back. You're not on a hard surface. It's a really different. There's more dimensions involved, and so you have to really be comfortable with that. And I guess to me that's part of the challenge: is how comfortable can I be in how harrowing of a situation.
Well, this situation with coronavirus is pretty harrowing, and I think you're going to weather it just fine, and you're going to release new music. Are you recording it at your home studio? I assume you have a home studio with the audiobooks and everything.
I'm not. I don't record music at home because I could, but I'm really I really want access to better spaces. The studio that I have is designed for voiceover, and it's a real small space that's acoustically designed specifically for that. You could do percussion or acoustic guitar or singing, but really it's not. I'm better off in a good studio with more space and with great musicians. I mostly record in Nashville. Actually, I have a band there I record with, and a couple different, the drummer's studio or the keyboard player's studio. And there's space to stretch out, and there's like 500 different kinds of drums and, 20 different guitars and keyboards, and there's a whole lot to choose from.
So that kind of studio.
Those are like a lot of the studios in Nashville. They're not known they're not like famous studios. A lot of people just have a house and they turn it into a studio and do a lot of work there, and it's places like that. That's where most of this record was tracked, was in Nashville at two of those studios in Nashville.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, that's wonderful. This conversation, I could go on for hours. I know we're just about out of time. This was so much fun. Please come back, because you are, you're one of these people. You just keep peeling back the layers. There's more and more and more. So I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about. Thank you so much for giving us some of your self-isolation quarantine time to chat today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful to talk to you guys. You're both just completely adorable, I can tell.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I will be back, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you again.
Sometimes we try to frame these interviews, tell you what we're going to talk about, but even on my podcast, on Talk for Two, when it's typically not music folks, if it's just so wide sweeping, I just let it speak for itself. And that's what we had to do here, because we talked about everything. I think we spent the first half of that not even talking about music, but talking about her voiceover work.
Yeah. And sometimes, you might see that we'll go back and forth with the artist on, maybe touring, maybe studio, then back to touring, just because they took it one way, but we had other questions that we kind of wanted to steer back the other way, and then it just kind of steers back the other way again. So it's fun, and they're all pretty much off the cuff, as you can tell, and we just have a lot of fun doing it. So I'm glad Carrington was involved in this, because she was definitely fun, and her voice is sexy as hell, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is. That's quite a way to put it, and quite a way to end this. For the Music Universe podcast, I'm Matt Bailey.
And I'm Buddy Yon. Thanks for listening.